What is up, YouTube, and welcome to this Wandavision episode 1 and 2 breakdown, including Easter eggs and theories. The MCU is finally back in TV form on Disney+, and Wanda and Vision are back in the trippiest, weirdest, most creative and creepiest thing Marvel has ever done. There will of course be spoilers as we dissect every minute detail of this fun show. And if you enjoyed the video, then a like would be greatly appreciated. And if you want more from us, then please do consider subscribing with notifications on so you never miss a video. The show will be framed in different style of sitcoms of each decade. For instance, episode 1 is a sort of I Love Lucy style sitcom, the template for seemingly all sitcoms of the time. However, it's a bit more like the Dick Van Dyke Show, as Wanda wears a dress that appeared in an episode of that show. Episode 2 is very much the style of Bewitched. No, not the iconic Irish girl band, but the amazing TV show from yesteryear. Now we open with a new style TV intro as we move to a different aspect ratio of the time, because widescreen really was not a thing during that time and was not really common until the late 90s. The audio also changes to mono, and of course it's in glorious black and white as we see Wanda and Vision head into town as a newly married couple ready to make their mark in the town of Westview. Now it seems like this is near New Jersey, as the location name Hackensack is mentioned, and New Jersey is actually where Wanda and Vision lived in the comics before joining the West Coast Avengers. Now last time we saw them, the Mind Stone was ripped out of our boy Vision, and Scarlet Witch was distraught as she becomes snapped. Thankfully, she returned during Endgame, taking out Thanos' army, and was present at the funeral of Tony Stark and the Fallen. However, something has gone very, very wrong ever since Endgame. They crossed the threshold in the traditional way, but the running theme of the episode is questioning, hey, are they married? Considering Vision died in Infinity War and did not return in Endgame, then I highly doubt he is real. Most of the effects are indeed practical effects, and it was filmed exactly like the old sitcoms with a real audience, strings, and really, really amazing look and aesthetic to this show. Now she hits him on the head with a plate and he says, "Oh, you and your flying saucers," a curious thing to say, and she says, "You and your indestructible head." Well, the Mind Stone was ripped out of his head, killing him, and he turned grey just like in the comics, so this could be hinting that he maybe reverted to a base operation of Jarvis and not the sentient AI that he was, courtesy of Ultron. Well, that's an interesting one, and his tie looks very curious, as we see a box with 2 dots in it there, and some things around it, which does seem like it could be people looking in on them, much like Sword are doing here. They appear to know they are not normal, so to speak, and trying to blend in, complete with Vision changing his look when leaving the house. However, it becomes evident later Wanda herself is in control of this world, or a bit more in control than the others, which could be due to her powers of reality bending. And this is the perfect reality and a reference to House of M, where Wanda made her own reality. There could also be the framework, a Matrix-style world in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or even inside an Infinity Stone, which the trailer did hint at. However, personally, I think that this is the machinations of Mephisto via a third party, which is, of course, Agnes, and I will explain that throughout the course of this breakdown, and please do stick with me because we're going to deep dive here. A bonus scenario is the Avengers standoff story, where Maria Hill wiped the minds of supervillains and made them all think they live in a 1950s style society using the cosmic cube. Now, Kevin Feige did say that the stories they're doing are being changed because you've read them in the comics. Ambitious, yes, Mr. Feige, but what if they are combining these stories? Now, what I'm saying is that in the Avengers, the documents that had the Tesseract on it, well, they were consulted by Mephisto. So what if he has somehow put together the cosmic cube there and has done something crazy? A wild theory, I know, but the nuts and bolts of it, in my opinion, is that Mephisto is here via Agnes. Now, they recognise something on the calendar that has a heart over August the 23rd. Of course, this is set in 2023 post-Endgame, and on the calendar, the 23rd is a Wednesday, and in 2023, Wednesday will be the 23rd, so this is post-Endgame. Now, neither of them can decipher just what this specific date is, with Wanda believing it to be the anniversary, except they aren't married, and Vision would later realise that it was actually a dinner party with his boss, Mr. Hart. Now, in comes Agnes, played by Catherine Hahn, and the lead theory, like I said on her, is that she is Agatha Harkness. Agnes. Yes, there we go. In the comics, Agatha was a witch who is centuries old and joined a group of witches in New Salem. But she was evil and turned over sorcerers to the authorities and would later become the governess and watched over Franklin Richards, but would later fight the Fantastic Four themselves. She then returned to New Salem and fought the Scarlet Witch, but as a byproduct of Wanda channeling energy that turned out to be Mephisto's broken soul, she became pregnant, and it turned out that, yes, these were fragments of Mephisto, explained by Agatha later, and she wiped her memory so she did not remember her children fading out of existence. Yes, the children would later return after House of M. However, later, Agatha would train Wanda to use her powers, and it seems like Agnes here is ensuring that she gets pregnant and is working with the devil, as in episode 2, when the phrase "the devil" in the detail is said, she says that that's not the only place he is, and constantly hints to children this might be why Agnes helps her work out the date as an anniversary, as she's hoping the two would maybe get down to it and have some children. She's appealing to Wanda to keep her husband, hoping for children to be born. Now, we cut to Vision as he is at a Computational Services Inc. and is literally just computing things together. Personally, I think we're heading into sort of a House of M territory where Wanda has willed people into existence and Vision is sort of trapped inside himself and being controlled, as this scene is essentially him computing things together or trying to work out what the heck is going on as he finishes his task, and he has no idea what the company does other than add up sums. The efficiency has gone up 300%, just like the amount of complaints towards Happy Hogan happened in Iron Man 3. Of course, it's referencing that he's immensely powerful, as of course he was an AI for Tony Stark before given sentiency. It's evident he is not in on whatever the darn heck is going on, but he's going to dinner with Mr. Hart, and it better be a good one as his job is on the line. I love the crossed wires between Wanda and Vision when they discuss how important tonight is going to have on their future. Now, we then cut to a toaster advert, the first of 2 in these episodes. It's the Toastmate 2000, which is made by Stark Industries. This might be a reference to the Vision comic where Vision tries to make a new life for himself and he makes a synthetic family, but it has a flashback to his failed relationship with Wanda where she calls him a toaster. But let's go deeper down into the rabbit hole, as this is all in Wanda's mind, it seems. As the advert continues on, we had a weird beeping, and we know how much Wanda hated Tony at first, as his bombs leveled her home and killed her parents as she was trapped with a second dud missile. So what if these are her parents, and it's also a reference to that? And of course there was a second advert in episode 2, which I'll break down when we get to episode 2. We then cut to the second half of the episode with some superb comedy and chemistry between almost everyone involved. I had to turn on the subtitles as I was laughing so much at the comedy and the timing. I might be a bit biased as I grew up watching reruns of these style of sitcoms. Thinking it is still their anniversary, Wanda is wearing a lewd outfit, well, lewd for the time, and greets Mr. Hart, but I found it funny they played it off as a traditional Sokovian greeting, which is shown again at the end. Mr. Hart says he doesn't break bread with Bolsheviks, of course referencing the mortal fear Americans had of communists, and considering Sokovia was Eastern European, which more than likely would have been under the influence of the USSR. Now, predictably, dinner goes awry in a slapstick fashion, as Wanda has no food in the house, and a dinner with the boss is the most typical 1950s sitcom trope of all time. Now, luckily, Agnes arrived with a feast, but I did wonder, why can't Wanda will the food into existence? Weirdly, we never meet Agnes' husband, but he's constantly referred to as Ralph. Mephisto has a PH in his name, just like Ralph. Yeah, that might be a bit of a reach just for now. Agnes, as the nosy neighbour, is relentless, and the power dynamic between the pair seems to be that of a mentor and mentee, and to me it's clear they know each other outside of this reality. However, Mrs. Hart, hungry and being a typical nosy person, wants to rush in to help with dinner, which is going very, very wrong. But Vision, with his quick thinking, starts singing the song that was on the office radio, Yakety Yak by the Coasters. Unfortunately for them, the only thing left to cook is steak, as Wanda has turned the chicken right back to an egg, and the lobsters have just gone out the window. It's gone horribly wrong, but Wanda is able to cook the breakfast she planned from the start of the episode, but couldn't as they had no food, as they sit down to breakfast for dinner, my favourite of the meals. However, the dinner conversation moves on to their story, as Mr. Hart pesters them non-stop, asking why they came here, what's their story, and gets irate as he starts to choke, and his wife says, "Stop it," repeatedly, becoming more and more desperate. This is where it becomes clear that this show is pretty much a horror, with some comedy as well. It might be that these people are in the simulation are SWORD agents sent in to find out what the heck is going on. There wasn't Agent Hart in the comics, and it might be a reason why the wife became more and more desperate. Wanda is in control as well, as Vision didn't even act until he got permission from Wanda. Now, after dinner, they sit down and finally decide to be properly married with wedding rings, and the episode closes as it's been seen on a monitor, as we know that SWORD are also heavily involved in this series. SWORD, which stands for Sentient World Observation and Response Department in the comics, has been changed slightly to Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Department for the series. They were set up as a counterpart to S.H.I.E.L.D. to stop extraterrestrial threats, and have a space station called the Peak, which is presumably what Nick Fury was on at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home after that twist. However, I think SWORD might simply be a S.H.I.E.L.D. replacement after Endgame, and the world realising that, yep, we really need some protection. Now, moving on to episode 2, we open with the pair in separate beds, which I've always found bizarre, but that's just me, as they're petrified of a knocking on the window, which simply turns out to be a tree knocking, but Vision expresses a heavy interest in joining the neighbourhood watch, which we will see later in this episode. The clear highlight for me of the episode was the Bewitched parody opening animation, which had a fantastic recreation of the iconic opening. However, there was a very, very cool Easter egg, which had the Grim Reaper's helmet in a very blink and you'll miss it moment. The Grim Reaper in Marvel was Eric Williams, the brother of Wonder Man, who was the template in the comics for Vision's mind. Funny enough, Wanda got with Wonder Man briefly in the comics. Now, in the Vision comic by Tom King, Eric was very angry at Vision living a life of perceived happiness and cut Vision's daughter in half, but his role in this is, as of yet, unclear. In a featurette, a behind-the-scenes video that was uploaded to Twitter, well, it does seem like Wonder Man is going to be in this series, because you had a picture of him at the back of one of the production studios. Now, after the animation, this episode is focusing on a magic show, a very on-the-nose reference to magic and Wanda being a witch, so to speak. It's all for the kids, which is a theme that runs throughout the episode, as at the end, Wanda becomes pregnant, just like she did in the comics. They're working on their talent show act, and the cupboard even has what looks like Vision's Soul Stone on the front of it, and what I would imagine looking like an explosion being ripped out. But I think there's more to that meets the eye. However, he is worried that someone will see through his shroud, which almost has a triple meaning, with him being an android in normal society, and also the charade of the world that Wanda is in. He heads off as Wanda hears a noise, only to find a toy helicopter that has got red and yellow colours. Sort of like Vision without the green there, the classic one. Also Tony Stark colours. It has a sword logo, and it's evident that this was flying over the bubble and it crashed, landing near her as her fantasy world rationalises it as a toy falling from the sky. And because it's real, it has colour. As usual, everyone's favourite nosy neighbour Agnes is outside and has brought her a pet rabbit to use for the magic show. And they head off to the planning committee for the talent show, and Wanda is warned that the woman they're meeting is sort of like the kingmaker in the community called Dottie. Now, Dottie is an awful person and sort of like a Stepford wife, and is horrible to the woman who overlooked the details of the chairs, and she says, "The devil's in the detail," as Agnes says that's not the only place he is, hinting at Mephisto. But hey, who the heck is Mephisto? Now, he's essentially the devil of the Marvel universe, and as said earlier, part of his soul was used to create Wanda and Vision's kids. He rules over this pocket of hell and instructed Master Pandonium to spread his soul fragments that were later put together, killing Wanda's kids until they were brought back after House of M. Her children are Wiccan and Speed, two members of the Young Avengers, which is seemingly being set up in Phase 4. Over the course of the meeting, Wanda meets Geraldine, who is actually Monica Rambeau, the daughter of Maria Rambeau, who we saw in Captain Marvel. At some point, Monica's grown up and joined S.W.O.R.D. and is clearly working in this weird world. Yes, she was a big character and one of the first people to take the moniker, no pun intended, of Captain Marvel. Now, while this is going on, our boy Vision heads to the neighbourhood watch, and they look very suspicious, as it seems like this is a group of S.W.O.R.D. agents who are convening to discuss what the heck is going on, and he lets slip that he doesn't eat food, and they gossip just as much as the women. Now, I found it funny as he eats some gum, which messes with his insides, and after swallowing it, it makes it seem like he's drunk. Now, once the planning committee has ended, we hear someone on the radio call for Wanda, asking who is doing this to her, which is of course, and it sounds like, Jimmy Woo, everyone's favourite former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who first appeared in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and in the comics was an agent of Atlas. It seems they're trying to get through to her via analog devices like we saw at the end of the episode, and Dottie gets cut showing real things can actually happen. Before this, Dottie said she didn't believe Wanda when she said she means no harm, hinting at Dottie also being an agent and breaking character. We cut to a watch advert with the same man and woman, and it's a Strucker watch, of course, hinting at how Wanda got her powers, complete with a Hydra watch face, and it's clear that these adverts are her subconscious. We then have Vision appear drunk and late, and it's the chewing gum that's messing with him, and it's so funny to see. The magic act starts, but poor old Vision is worse for wear as he tries, and Wanda takes over and turns everything into strings and 2D tricks, which was so shot expertly. They pull out the final act as Monica Rambeau appears in the box, and she has no idea what was going on. She must be very confused over this assignment. They head home and have some popcorn as she becomes pregnant, and she is finally asking, is this really happening? Hinting at, is this happening, and are they really having their very happily ever after, which they wanted, of course, ever since Infinity War. Now, they hear a noise and come out and see a man in a sword beekeeper outfit as she nopes the heck out and rewinds the tape. But who the heck is this mysterious beekeeper? I did think Mephisto at first, but I really don't think they'd show their cards that early on, but there was another character in Marvel called Swarm who was involved in World War II and later moved to South America and developed mutated bees, and he was a Spider-Man villain later on. There's also the idea that this could be AIM. We know that AIM are going to be involved in some way with Black Widow and the future of the Thunderbolts, and also somehow with Ant-Man 3. We know things are twisted here, and AIM recruits do sort of like beekeepers, so it could be this reality changing things up as he's in an underground service tunnel, perhaps. They then change colour as a radio continues to ask, "Who did this to you, Wanda?" as we move to a new decade in glorious Technicolor. It looks good, and I will link a good friend channel who edited a couple of episodes together to make it look like the trailer. And I adored this, but can see it being divisive. I love the weird and wonderful take, but it took a while for me to kind of get into it. And I can see other people kind of being like, what the hell was that? But go with it, and just like Tenet, just feel it. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know if I missed any Easter eggs as well. Let me know your theories. Please do subscribe if you want more from us, and I'll see you soon, and goodbye.